Somebody came in here and said we should have theater seats set up.
Start.
Ready? Oh, welcome to another live question and answer after a long day here at Upholstery on Broadway, which included at the end of the day, Jimmy, who if you've taken the online classes have seen in another class. What was that chair that you did, Jimmy? The Ottoman.
Yes.
Jimmy's got an Ottoman class up. Did a good job on that. He's back again. I have this chair up here to show you what he's working on now. Very difficult open arm. I call it an arts and crafts chair, which brings up my first comment that or question that somebody had. It was Ann. I'm just going to get right into this, and then I think after this question, I think we're going to have Jimmy come up and talk to Jimmy a little bit about his experiences here at the upholstery shop and being one of the apprentices on the online classes. But first, Ann had a good question, and Ann, we're going to get that video. I'm still waiting for a chair to come through the door.
That's Janine, though.
Janine.
I mean, that's Erica.
Erica, just while it's on my mind, waiting for that piece of furniture to come in that we're going to make a private video for you, so be patient with me on that one. I want to make sure it's the right piece, though, because on the arms on that chair, on that petite French love seat that you have, that is really done much differently than any other piece of furniture, so I'm waiting for the right one to come in. It will come in, don't worry. But anyhow, Ann asked, and while I have this chair up, it's a good case in point, actually. She says, can you offer any resources that will help folks learn upholstery styles, like what's a Martha Washington chair or a Windsor chair? Thanks, Kevin. And she says she appreciates the teaching very much. Thank you, Ann. Well, you know what? Sometimes they're hard to classify. You can always Google the basic stuff, like a Martha Washington or a Windsor chair. But some pieces of furniture, like this one, this has Queen Anne legs, and it's more, and above here, it looks to me like more of an arts and crafts. So I call this the Queen Anne arts and crafts chair. You know, pretty much some of them, you just look at the style of the feet, and you could just say it's Queen Anne chair, but that doesn't tell the whole story with this piece. Some pieces are unique, you know, too. So very rarely do I get a piece in here that's that's a 100% Martha Washington chair. Okay, would have to be 200 years old to be, 150 years old to be a genuine Martha Washington chair. What I see here are reproductions. So Jimmy, why don't you come on up, Jimmy? And Jimmy, we picked Jimmy from our vast studio audience.
What was that number again?
One. And Jimmy, how do you think this is coming out? I mean, it's been
well, from what it was till now, with the stripping it down, staining it up, and getting an idea of the fabric, and not realizing how much work it was actually going to be with the decking, which is really kind of surprising. I just thought, okay, simple stitch, no.
Yeah, it's a chair that, even I'm sometimes surprised at how much work and labor goes into what seemingly are the easiest looking jobs. Like mid-century furniture is notorious for that. The simple lines, they look easy, but they're not. And this is the case in point in this one. What makes this one hard especially, or difficult, is the fact that it's an open arm and open front, whereas most furniture just has the upholstered arms.
Right.
And so you kind of hide, you can hide a lot of that. You can't hide anything with this chair.
No, it's very wide open. Actually,
Yeah.
I was thinking, going to ask you, would you ever think about putting upholstery here?
Well, you have to be careful with putting padding on such a thin arm and such a thin frame, because especially if people are going to be tacking and not using the staple gun.
Okay.
Because tacks require much more of a bang force.
Okay.
And you can damage the arms on this, whereas the staple gun has as much force, but it's contained in the head. It's contained in the gun.
Okay.
And it just shoots the staple out, right? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Goes in easier. Plus, it's just two little prongs in a staple.
Okay.
Whereas a tack's a shaft, and you have to hit it, and force. Really, there's more force that's required. So I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would avoid that. But that's a good question. So, do you have any other questions? Jimmy's we filmed Jimmy's 7th online class today.
No, I think it's coming. I'd like to see how the back end of it is going to be pretty simple with the
so you've got
hand stitching is going to be my repertoire, my next class, I think.
You have this upholstery ready, right? It's upholstery ready because you have the Dacron on the back, and then we're going to put a piping around the back after we upholster the front, and then you're going to hand stitch the outside back to that piping.
Oh, wow.
So-
See, I never did that. I did it with the material from one
Yep.
from the back to the front, but no piping.
I think a little piping in there might be
A little
nice.
class.
A little detail.
Yeah, I like a little class.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, not too much.
And by the way, if anybody has any questions for Jimmy is an apprentice, so you might have a question for him, and regarding apprentice work. So thank you, Jimmy. I might call you up here in a minute
Okay,
for something
well,
else.
all right, yeah, let me find my way back from this massive
Yeah.
audience here.
So that was that. We have a lot to catch up on, and a lot of questions and comments that came in. This is from SJ. Any idea how much this couch would be worth before the reupholstering? This is the American Victorian sofa, if you guys are interested in that. You can, that's on the YouTube site, Broadway Upholstery YouTube channel. It's called the American Victorian Sofa, Stripping and Measuring for Fabric. So this piece we didn't upholster on, I don't think we upholstered that, we just were showing you different aspects of that, and they're asking about pricing. That's a little bit of a loaded question. Used furniture in this part of the country, I guess it depends on where you are. I mean, we got a call from a man in Savannah, Georgia, and they were saying there's a lot of older antiques down there, so there's a market for older antiques in Savannah, but maybe not so much in the Midwest. It depends on your area about value. It's supply and demand. In my part of the country, the East Coast, especially in the Boston area, mid-century furniture is really big. And mid-century furniture has, in this part of the country, retains its value. I'm told this part of the country that this particular sofa, American Victorian sofa, not so much. If I had to guess on that, I would say maybe unupholstered. If it was a used piece of furniture, you bought it out here. It's called the Brimfield, which is a place where they sell a lot of antiques over the summer. They might have a price tag of about $400 or $500 on something like that. If it had been upholstered, a lot more than that, obviously. So, but this is a good question. And there's a follow-up question. And is there a video of how to recover it? Now, I'm not sure. We have 120 videos, and right offhand, you might want to scan through all the videos that we have. I may or may not have done an American Victorian sofa. I'm not sure. So, Janine. Hi Janine, you commented, watch the whole question and answer video from the start. Thank you for that. So thank you for answering my questions. I love my online class. It's hard to wait until the next week, and it can't come quick enough, she says. So for all of you who haven't signed up for the online classes, I would highly recommend it for the value. I think it has great value, and Janine, I think, can speak about that. I think the YouTube station, though, is wonderful. If you're just watching the YouTube videos, that's great. Don't forget to subscribe, by the way, if you're doing that. But I find that the YouTube channel is fantastic, except that it's smaller segments and not as in-depth. I can tell you at least from my teaching ability, I can't teach everything. I can't show everything with the camera, facing the camera and upholstering. What Jimmy and people like Jimmy do when they're learning, like today he asked some really good questions that I wouldn't have been able to show on a YouTube channel. So I highly recommend the classes, and that's at BroadwayUpholsterySchool.com if you're interested. But again, I'm glad that you're just here too. So Lauren Bush. She says, thank you for sharing your knowledge. What regulator do you use? I use a very simple, I believe this is a 10-inch regulator. Some have handles on them. I don't like the ones with the handles particularly, because then it becomes more of a like an awl or a tougher tool. And this tool's not a tough tool. It's a finesse tool. Okay, it's not used to pry, although sometimes we do pry out staples or something. You shouldn't, but it's not really meant for that. It's meant for more finesse. Jimmy actually used this, to take down a pleat. I'll show you. Well, I can show you with this. Like after this is cut, he's going to have to use that just to tuck the fabric like so. So you want to keep that really pointed. You really don't want to use it like an awl. But like I said, the one with the handle on it feels more like an awl, and you tend to be a little bit more rough with that, and that's not the intention. So the other use for this is certain fabrics you can go through the fabric and work filling from behind. To be very careful with that. Like on Jimmy's, you want to test first to see. I'm just poking a hole in it. Jimmy's squirming in the corner because he's got about how many hours of work in this, Jimmy?
Yes, well, I have plenty of fabric too.
Right,
so.
but I mean, how much? This took a long time to put this on, right?
Yeah, well, it took a good two to three sessions. So
I probably should ask you: is it okay to poke your fabric?
I'll
with a
let
hole?
you this time, but be careful with that. You know.
Well, I'm going to be underneath.
The owner would be very upset.
Now I'm nervous. But look, I'm going to be underneath. Don't worry. I'm going to poke. Did you hear that? I don't know if the camera can hear this. Okay, this is a bad sign, right? If you could just everybody be quiet for 1 second. I don't know if you can hear that, but what I hear are threads breaking when I poke that, and that's not good. So that means that the weave on that is way too tight to use the regulator in that way. And that's how you check your fabric. It's probably the tip of the year right now for you guys. You don't want to put holes in your fabric, right? So the regulator works on fabric that when you poke it, the needle slides through without breaking the threads. When you take the needle out, there may be a hole left, but you should be able just to spread it back like so. Now there's another little trick. Sometimes you really get into a pickle where you do have to go through the front part of the fabric. So what I usually do, I just check the back part of the fabric, the background part of the fabric, and it didn't work. Now I'm going to check the cotton. See, there's little cotton parts of the fabric that are the flowers. So I'm going to see what happens when I go through that area. It does the same thing. It's actually making a hole. We don't want that. So Jimmy needs to do all his work from the top and not relying on the regulator in that way. But I think that's a great question, a great to go over what the use of the regulator is. So if you've ever taken a chair, sometimes we take older pieces of furniture out and we see muslins covering the horsehair, and you see all these little holes in there. That's from the regulator. The other thing that we see on older furniture is rusted tacks everywhere. People say, why are the tacks rusted? It wasn't in a garage. It wasn't in the basement. It wasn't outside. It's been in a nice heated area the whole time in an old home somewhere. Well, those rusted nails are the saliva from the upholsterer spitting tacks.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. Read one of the comments on there. It's very funny about that video. I thought I put it in there.
Oh, there's a comment on
There's a typo in it, but you get what it was trying to say. Read that right now.
So let's just look at that, what that says. There's a joke. We love upholsterer's joke. Of course, the best upholsterer joke I know is Jimmy. Upholsterers don't die. Did you know that?
No, tell me, Kevin.
They always recover. Now put on the fake laughter.
I take it your wife doesn't let you out too much.
Not much. Not much. I said no. I saw that on a bumper sticker once, believe it or not.
You did.
Yeah. Now let's see. Oh, here's the from Thomas Norton. Norton. He's in somewhere. He says if you swallow the text.
Tax. I knew you were going to read it right.
He says if you swallow the tax, they become income tax.
That's right.
And they're painful. I'll add that part. All right, so that's
I
good.
still think you should manufacture that rifle the Three Stooges used to use in there.
I wish they had something like that. It would make upholstering easier, Jim.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. Okay.
By the way, are there any questions and answers?
Not now, but Erica is watching while driving, or listening while driving.
What?
Oh,
Listening.
well, hopefully we won't have anything too distracting. The jokes.
Stimulating.
Yeah.
Too late for that. The last segment.
Okay, so we have more questions. Ray says, amazing. Now, Ray was watching the video called Stuffing a Cushion Cheaply and Effectively. And I have to tell you guys, that's the most popular video on the station.
Really?
It has to do, you know what? You can save tons of money learning how to do a cushion, stuffing a cushion. You can adjust cushions, Jimmy, with using the old filling and make it look like a brand new sofa.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that shows that, and also how to stuff using. I think we were using like Dacron on that or something. Jimmy's yawning now, so Erica, you should be okay driving. Is it Erica that's driving?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the more of a danger is that she falls asleep, Jimmy, rather than get,
Yeah, I guess we should probably stimulate the conversation a lot more.
I always said, watching my videos, if you suffer from insomnia, which I'm not making fun of that because all of us have had difficulty sleeping, but I have the cure. Watch one of my videos and have turkey and heavy gravy and a bottle and a glass of wine, and you'll be asleep in no time.
At any time given during the 24-hour period, folks. Thank you.
Let's go to the next page. We got a lot to cover here. We might have a question from Erica in here, I think. I'm going to go skip. I'm going to see if she's got a question in here and skip over to it. Nope. Okay, so the next one, Janine again, she says, oh, this is a fun one, you guys. If you've seen the 1800 Civil War sofa, Treasures of Upholstery.
That's a new video.
That's a new video that we just put up. That's awesome. We have a little fun in that. My son loves to put, I don't know how he does it. He photo shoots me in a with a big heavy Civil War mustache and a Union cap with. And that thing I'm holding is not a shotgun. It's this.
Well, thank God. Oh yeah, I saw that one.
It's just a clinch it that we use in upholstery.
Thank God it's a union outfit.
Well, I almost made a mistake on that.
Well, we like to have fun with them, but that was a very we after that we go right into something that's extraordinary with that and that. I'll let Janine say it. Janine says, "Wow, how incredible to find your teacher and mentor had reupholstered this amazing piece 42 years before, and I hope we see a video of you working on it." I'm not sure. Actually, I've been working on it actually, Janine, and I'm gonna pan over to that. Jimmy's gonna take care of that for me. It's up on the horses over here. What you're gonna see is the back side of the piece, that Civil War piece. And Jimmy, if you scan down, you'll see the inside back, which has to come off. I'm just going to take some of this off. See, I finished the seat needed to be tied, and that's the back that needs a double piping put around it. But if you look at the video, you'll see it in its old fabric. So, thank you, Janine.
Yeah. Now we have to cut back to you, Kevin?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Jimmy. Our studio audience, as you can see, they get involved with every aspect of our question and answer here. Not only is Jimmy on an online class, and he's our audience, he's also our cameraman occasionally when these things come up. So thank you, Jimmy.
We have a question.
We have a question.
Okay, so
Monique asked, what's Jimmy's favorite tool and your favorite tool?
Oh God.
We'll let Jimmy answer that first.
I think I have my favorite tool is the staple gun. I think it's very quick to use. It's lightweight. Yes, you do have to be very careful. There is a little bit of safety with that. You just don't want to go getting a little too careless with it. But I know, at least when I start using it, I know the project is kind of coming together a lot more, and it's kind of coming to the end, which is great. I love it.
You like the staple gun?
Oh yeah, it's one of the better ones.
I'll tell you what I like. It's hardly ever used in upholstery, but it's the clinch it. And it's something cool about this, Yankee Magazine, I don't know if Yankee Magazine is still around, but they used to have a segment in there, Guess the Tool.
Oh, I
Do you
remember that, yes.
I always want to submit this to them to see
You
if
would
they could
probably
figure that
win.
out. Do you think I would win?
Absolutely. How many people could you'd have to have 2 or 3 pictures of that,
I think so.
okay, to give everybody a fair shot at what it would do.
Did you know this is considered a machine? Anything with more than 2 moving parts is considered a machine, Jimmy?
Well, you know what? When I remember my first class seeing that, I was like, "What is this?"
You were mesmerized, weren't you?
I was because I'm looking at the end, thinking it's stapled. Okay,
It has a trigger.
Yeah, and
It has these funny little bullets or whatever they are coming out. They're called clinches.
And it's for the springs.
And I get
So
a
I
kick.
had no idea what it was going to do.
I get a kick out of this. Now I'm not sure if this one has on it.
What's that?
I
Date?
think. Well, yeah, it had a patent pending
No way.
on it. This one doesn't have it, but it says clinch it with the K, KLINCH
Okay.
-IT. And the thing is, these tools. Oh, here it is. There's something written there. Oh yeah, here it is. So it says patent pending, clinch it.
What year? Does it say anything?
You'd think it would have the year, right? But it doesn't. But you know, it has a trigger. It has the clinches that you put in. You feed them through this opening up here. And this is used for anchoring springs down, and it saves a lot of time because it's either that or hand stitching the springs down to the webbing, right, Jimmy? That's its only purpose.
I would be burdened with knowing that you have to put in 8 springs.
Well, you have to put in, sometimes on a sofa, you're putting in maybe 16 to 20 or 30 springs.
Wow.
And that hand stitching those would be quite a task. I mean, you hand stitch the top, but hand stitching the bottom is a little bit of a hassle.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
So that's a good question online and live online. Are there any more?
Not right now.
So this is a good one, Jimmy, from Dave Bryant. He actually did some Google research for us. And he says, I couldn't help it but do some Googling, and the DeWalt Tool Company was started in Pennsylvania, and if it is signed, they might be interested in it. I think, Dave, you're right. Unfortunately, I didn't see a signature on this. I was a little bummed out about that, but I find usually that's the case. I have very rarely found signatures in pieces. Sometimes we find stamps. I'll tell you a little story. We had a customer come in. I might have told this story before, Jimmy. This is a good one. She was from California. She just flew in from California, and were her arms tired? No. So she flew in. I know.
Let's put that comedy show to rest.
I know. Well, she flew in, and she moved here. She had already had a home set up, and she was here a week when she was going up one of the local roads near the shop here, and she saw a love seat in the trash. She picked the love seat up, drove it right down here, and said, I want this upholstered. So I said, sure. And I'm looking at it, Jimmy. It actually had flat arms, wooden arms like yours here, but a little bit bigger.
Okay.
It had a little wood here. It had the upholstery on the seat and on the back. And something about it was familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it because I had never seen a sofa like this before, right? So as I was taking it apart, you know, you talk about stamps or signatures. It had a stickly stamp on the back leg, which usually they put it on the back. I think it's the right leg, if I'm not mistaken. It's hidden, but you have to turn the piece over to see it. Jimmy, do you guess how much this love seat was worth? $10,000.
$10,000?
$10,000. So I said to the woman, I called her in. I said, you know, you're not going to believe it. You've got quite a find here. You found this in the trash.
How did you find out it was worth that much money?
Well, we just Google it like Dave did. It's just happened to be a very special, you know, they didn't make many of these. Anyhow, so I said to the customer, I said, don't expect this to happen every time. You're here a week and you find a $10,000 sofa on the sidewalk. How lucky is that?
You'd never find anything like that. Very rare. Oh yeah, something in the attic.
But you know what I find? The treasure of, you know, people go look at that Civil War sofa. The treasure really is the fact that my mentor did that sofa, and I actually am doing it now. And I love that. I love that whole idea. Anyhow, Martin says about the same video. Well, we got a couple of comments on that video, huh, Patrick?
Yeah.
I would say that it was a beautiful work. He's meaning the original work, the original work, and will be beautiful work. Looking forward to the next installment. So maybe when that's done, Patrick, we'll have to take a picture of that to post it or do a follow-up YouTube. But we're not going to show. We didn't have time to put that on an extended YouTube video showing me how to do it. It's just too much work. It's just some pieces are just so tedious, so long that it's hard to film, and that's one of them. So the next question, unless we have any more live questions.
Nope.
Do you have a question, Jimmy?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm mesmerized with finding.
I did want to tell you a story though. Remind me when I have another story. It's a little embarrassing, but I'm going to tell it anyhow, Jimmy. They say you're allowed 3 selfie-facing comments at every question and answer. Do you ever hear that?
No, I never.
So did I do one selfie-facing? Yeah, no. This is the first one.
Okay.
My wife and I very rarely go to the movies, and this is probably why.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. I'll tell you why. So we go to it was an older movie theater here in the Boston area. I won't tell you which one, but the seats are a little older, you know. So my wife and I go in. The theater is dark, as it usually is, and there's a few people in the theater. And I go to sit down, and I miscalculated how high or how low the seat was. So I kind of fell into the chair, which is what you're not supposed to do, right? Do you know what happened? I broke it. It blew up. Not only did that chair break, it went flat down. I was on my back looking at the ceiling, but the whole row was affected.
Oh, you're not coming to my house.
So I don't know. We're not going to go to too many movies.
Well, so, you know, there are some seats out there though that are like that. They haven't raised them up for whatever reason.
You know, thank you, Jimmy, for being sympathetic.
You wouldn't be allowed in my theater.
You know, some of these theaters are for smaller people. They were built around, you know, we did you guys should see, we did the Colonial Theater here in Boston. We did some of the work in there, some of the upholstery. Mm-hmm. And that was like Fenway Park when you know, the chairs, everybody complains, the chairs are so close together and I can hardly fit in. Well, you know, we have changed as a society, haven't we?
A little bit. Well, you know what? We probably couldn't get half the seats in Fenway Park as people think.
That's right.
And people complain. That's the first seat people complain about.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, they want that recliner.
Well, if they had that, then you'd see another $35 on the ticket. Oh, by the way, they're on sale today.
Okay. Okay, so Jose, he says, thanks for teaching such great art and a good job. Now he's commenting on another video, that was the 8-way hand-tied instructional video, and I would like to say a comment on that. Every upholsterer that I knew had a different technique for tying springs, or slightly different techniques, and everybody thought they had the best, you know. So the thing about tying springs is as long as you're following the basic rules of tying springs, which is that all the springs should be standing straight up with all the twine, 8 twines, that's a tongue twister, 8 twines tied tightly and the springs sitting straight up, that's your goal. So if you have a little signature, that's what I like about upholstery. Every person can add their little signature to anything they want. And if you purchase the video for the kit, the upholstery kit, you'll see me using, I had taken that apart and then reupholstered with some of the materials that I had taken apart, like the foam. So you'll see me working on a piece of foam that had been taken off that's a little, you know, the edges are a little bit ripped and the like. But I like a challenge, so I reversed it. So you'll see me struggling a little bit on that, but I'm showing you different techniques on how to overcome some of the problems that you might come up with. And it's a very basic show. It shows everything from the webbing, from the anchoring the springs, not with the clinch it, because nobody at home has one of these tools, but it shows you how to hand stitch them, as well as I think we get into the clinch it too. But that ottoman, it goes all the way up to fabric, and I'm very proud of that, because when you buy that, you get the booklet with it too, and that's at BroadwayUpholsterySchool.com. And thank you for the people who have purchased that. I'd like your feedback on that. You're probably still working on it. Ann has a question. I enjoy and appreciate these live question and answer sessions. They help me going between each online class. They help keep me going between each online class, which I also love and I can't get enough of. Would you share the specs to your horses, height, length, how to build, etc.? Thanks, Kevin. Well, I had these built for me, but I can quickly, well, maybe we should answer that, Patrick. Well, I could do that now. Let's do that now. I bet there are people interested. We got a little time. Let's just get my tape measure.
Right here. Well, the
Yeah. Actually, we can do that now for Ann. I'm sure she's watching. So these are important because they come up, they're about thigh high, at least on my thigh, which is an important height. You don't want to get them too tall or too small. The other thing that you will see about these horses, Jimmy, if you could, can you see the horses?
Yep.
Below, there's this opening, and the wood slats are not wide or thick, so that means that your feet can kind of flow in and out. Some of these horses that you get in the like some of these box stores, they're too wide and they're too heavy on the bottom, so you're always tripping on them. I love these horses, so I'm going to give you the measurements from the floor, and they have a well in them as well, so that a piece of furniture can sit inside without falling off. That's also important. Up and down from the floor up, the overall height's 28 inches, and the length is 38 inches. The well is 6 inches. And I'm going to give you the top spread, which is 9 inches, and I'm going to give you the bottom spread, which is 17 inches. And then, you know, they're just cut out pieces of wood, really, and that's it.
They're not heavy.
Yeah, they're not heavy.
They're not a 2x4, which is a normal.
Right.
But I think the trays themselves for that type of style is very workable, because you can put your hammers and your tacks and so on there. It's readily right there.
And so the padded bench was useful today, Jimmy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So the thing about a padded bench is that you can lay. It's good for the wood on wood, by the way. You don't want finished wood on wood. But the padded, Jimmy laid out all his cover. He couldn't have done that if he was just using the horses by themselves. Although the horses used by themselves are really important for a sofa. You need to get a sofa that's a heavier piece of furniture within the well, Jimmy, so that the legs don't slip off and you have an accident.
Yeah.
Especially on a sofa bed. So one of my nightmares, you know what my nightmare is, Jimmy?
What?
That I'm in here alone and a sofa bed falls on me and the only thing sticking out on my feet with the ruby slippers.
Yeah, I see them every day at Commander, Kevin. It's really kind of like unique.
And we like to have fun too, right?
Yeah, you gotta have some fun.
We joke a little bit.
We'll throw a chair at you next time.
Patrick's going there, what is he talking about? He doesn't know what we're talking about.
Janine just joined in.
Janine just joined. Hey, hi Janine. I think I just answered Janine's, that was Ann's question.
Ann is watching too, so that's good. She just got the measurements, so.
Good. So Renee says, I love your videos, however, I have a special request. I have searched YouTube and can't find anyone that works on Charles of London arm. I'm glad I'm looking at this because she says, I'd like to know what is so special about this construction. I'm planning to make a queen-size daybed. Crazy as that sounds, I have my reasoning. So I'd like to know what the deal with Charles of London is. Looking forward to the slipcover tutorial. Do you want to mention that? That's going to be coming up. We having a discussion with Patrick. We realized that there are a lot more people out there with just a sewing machine, and they might be in an apartment situation, Jimmy, and they can't set up a shop. You know, they can't set up a shop with loud, noises like a compressor or hammering. So we're figuring something out that we have an unbelievable teacher lined up showing how to do slipcovers. She's actually has a technique for slipcovers that is totally her own techniques and totally a genius.
She's a little bit of a teaser right now.
It's a teaser. Yeah, for Bernice.
Right.
And Bernice is going to be upcoming in the new year. We're going to have these unbelievable slipcover tutorials on. I'm sure there are people out there interested in that. But getting back to the Charles of London arm, I actually did a little research myself, and I realized you're going to have to be more specific, Renee, as to which arm you're talking about. So if you can send a picture to me of what you're talking about, I'll be able to speak on that more. But Charles of London, they have a lot of different furniture, which I didn't realize, a lot of different styles, so I don't know which style you're referring to. And then she's talking about, I'd like to slipcover my mattress and blankets on it too, which is always a good idea. Always a little easier than, as long as the piece of furniture is able to be, this had to be restored, Jimmy's had to be restored. As long as you're covering over something that doesn't need to be restored, slip covering is a great option. And then Thomas's comment about if you swallow the tax, there must be income tax for the artist spinning tax.
That's a Three Stooges.
Then this is a favorite of mine. We posted a video, Jimmy, about how I had a customer come to me. She had 6 slip seats, and she only had 1 yard of fabric. And she said,
The small chair one.
which one?
Oh, not the pattern you showed me there.
No, this was that pink plaid. Did we show you that?
Yes.
Did we show you?
Reversed it.
Yeah. We
Yes.
reversed, what we did was we took, usually I tell people to get 2.5 yards of fabric for 6 chairs, right? This was, she had leftover plaid fabric. This was a pink plaid fabric. She had leftover 1 yard from the time it was shipped from Sweden. It was crated from Sweden, brought over here. They gave her an extra yard.
Mm-hmm.
So, 15 years later, she wants to get them reupholstered, and she wants to see if I can do them in 1 yard of fabric. I said, I'm not a magician, but I like a challenge, right? So I measured the slip seat and realized if I cut the fabric down the middle or lengthwise, that I had a 1/2 inch, so I could get 4 out of 1 yard of fabric. But the other 2, what am I going to do with the other 2? I carefully take the fabric off, turned it around, and you couldn't tell that you couldn't tell.
Lucky.
I was lucky as right, but I like a challenge.
The horseshoe was in the right
I
spot.
think so.
Basically, I think all that way.
Any questions before I move on to the next?
Nope.
Okay. So, then we had a comment on the reverse your fabric, save money. That was the title of the YouTube. Definitely need to be a problem solver if you want to be an upholsterer. Nice solution. So we talk about that problem solving. But Jimmy, every job is problem solving, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, with this, my chair, there's probably half a dozen problems that we encountered.
Yeah.
Again, with the fabric,
Uh-huh.
the backing, the deck, at
Yeah.
least 2 or 3 problems with the deck alone.
Yeah.
The cotton being as old as it was. The burlap, I believe, was old as it was. So yes, it was.
So bringing up, that's an important thing. I want to plug a little bit about, Erica's waiting for this custom video that we're going to do for her, for this petite French chair, French love seat. And that we're making those available, those videos, custom videos, because it brings up that, when you look at this chair, Jim, you're telling me that you might have 8 or 9 or 10 different areas where you might have got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't know what to do unless you had somebody showing you.
Yes.
I guess that's what you're saying.
That's you. That's what
Yeah,
you're
okay. Well, that's what I'm here for, right?
Oh, yeah. Night and day, 24/7 on call, baby.
All right, so we got Luigi. He says, Master, excellent explanations, exclamation marks. Thank you very much, exclamation marks. And
Is he talking about me?
he's talking about a video that's called
Oh,
Getting the Most Out of a Yard of Fabric. That's a different video. That we show you how to measure fabric, right? And then we have Janine says, nice solution on the reverse the fabric. Let's just pan through these again. I think I've got most of these, Patrick, unless you have some more, Pat.
Somebody mentioned, it's a comment, it says, I need a FAVA leather sewing machine. I'm not sure. This person's from Morocco. It's just a comment, I'm not sure if you've heard of those.
Yeah, well, leatherwork is tough. You need your machinery. I can speak a little bit on that. This machine here will not do leather. This will do probably safely if you fold 5 or 6 pieces of fabric, lay it on top of one another, it would safely sew those together. But anything over that, you need bigger machinery. And some of the leather is really quite thick. And the type of leather that you use in upholstery is important. Some of the Italian leathers are nice and thin. That would be the preference in upholstery. But you have to make sure that you don't have anything, even the big machines that are out there sometimes don't take all the leather that you need to lay on top of one another to get a stitch through. So you got to be careful on that.
Janine says, can you reuse antique finishing tacks and can you straighten them?
Yeah, I've had bad experience with that.
I tried to do that with my sister's chair.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it because it was it had a tone to it. It had kind of a grassy, and it was not a good thing to do. Because a lot of them, when I took them out, not realizing they were going to be bent the way they were,
And then you try to unbend them, and that
It
puts
broke.
stress.
They're not brittle, but they're tender enough.
And here's the thing, even if they look like after you straighten them out and then you put them in, what happens, I'll tell you a little story, what happens is they'll pop because there's pressure from the fabric that's pushing that up. A little bit all you need is a little bit of pressure on a stem that's been jeopardized or that's a little loose, and they pop right out. So I had this love seat a few years ago that the customer was sentimentally attached to this thing, and she loved it. There was special tacks. Some of these tacks, they have buffalo heads on them. They're kind of cute, you know. The older ones too were kind of unique. She insisted that I reuse the old tacks. Against all of my instincts, I said I would, and I was going back to that house putting tacks in for I don't know how long, because
of that reason.
Because the fabric, even though they look like they were tight when they were put in, the fabric has a little bit of upward motion because you know you're just catching it on the dome of the tack, right? So and then the fabric's on the inside of the dome, and there's that little bit of pressure is popping the tacks out. It was like something out of the Amityville horror there, Jimmy.
Yeah, I saw that last week. James Rowland never looked so good.
It's funny, you know, you and I are in the same age group, and a lot of what we say goes over the head of most people.
I know. If people really knew my name, they'd probably go, I have to get the history of my name.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, unlike the other of years ago, people would say, hey, by the way, you are...
Yeah, and make fun of you and pick on you.
Yeah, big, and then I come back with a...
How does that make you feel? Don't.
Oh, that's what people will say. It's like having a session. Like, well, how do you feel about it now? How do you feel about it then? I'm like, okay, how about 2 minutes from now?
So Janine, just to recap, you don't recommend she does that?
I don't recommend, no, not at all. Avoid that. You'll be...
Get a nice, I think a nice shiny, I think something that fits the material.
Yeah. There are plenty of new tacks out there that are available.
I mean, look, you'd be surprised.
As a matter of fact, Jimmy, you see that? I think over there there's let's show Janine that card that we have. It looks like a box.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Right here.
Jimmy, why don't you come out like Vanna White and show that to people?
The Vanna White.
Yeah, hold that up.
And now
to the camera. Those are the different tacks. But there used to be many, many more in the upholstery business. But that's a French natural. That's a larger French natural.
what would you use that for? Like a more of a...
That has to be used
Sofa?
on a sofa, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can't use that on a chair. Now, Spanish, they break the rules, right?
Of course they do. All
Because
the time.
they use even bigger tacks than this on the
Are you
small
kidding?
Spanish chairs, yeah.
It's the thing.
They break the rules. This is silver-headed tacks.
I use this for my sister. Some that were a little bit
Yeah,
better than that.
that's the Oxford. And there's a cat's eye, kind of like that, but nobody ever uses it. I think it's a cool sounding name, but nobody ever uses the cat's eye. And
so
then
I think you need something that makes it pop. Something like this, I would say.
Yeah,
Maybe that.
Janine needs to know what she needs to go with the wood and the fabric
Yeah.
color that she has.
Okay.
That makes it. And the size tack, that's too small for most anything. I don't know why people would use that. The average standard is the French natural,
Okay, and this
which is. That's it. People, I'll tell you what people do. They start looking at all these and go, oh, that might look nice, and then they always go back to the French natural.
Yeah, but you know what? You gotta.
This one.
That's nice. That's a nice size too.
Yeah, that's the size and what they go for usually. It's a universal tack, so I would recommend that.
Okay.
I mean, they used to have buffalo head tacks too.
Yeah.
Nobody ever used that either.
Yeah, that was probably something that went by the boards.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Oh, no problem. No problem for the display.
And whoa,
A
we're still.
question from Erica.
Erica's got a question.
So, Kevin, you told me to color the staples for that silk velvet welting I'm trying to attach. What do I use to color the staples? Magic marker or paint?
Yeah, and I'm glad you're talking about that silk velvet. That silk velvet is one of the most beautiful fabrics available. I mean, think about it, silk velvet. What could be more beautiful and luxurious than that? But it's an awful fabric to work. So you were asking you were using glue on that. So what happens when you use glue on silk, it melts. It won't stick, and it's terrible. You can't use that. So the solution, your only solution if you're using double piping, is the pneumatic staple gun with staples, and you can use magic marker to try to get as close to the color of the fabric as you can, and try to be as in between the pipings as you can. And you don't have to be too close together. You could be like every 3 or 4 inches. And now what you're going to notice is just a little pucker when you do that. Take your regulator and run your regulator, after you staple it down, run your regulator in and firmly, and try to smooth those little gullies out. You'll be surprised. Sometimes, now I can tell you, I think on a silk velvet, that staple will be hidden. I think you'll be okay. Good questions though, really. I think that, Patrick, we've covered, unless Jimmy has unless there's more questions than answers, should we stay on for a little while to make sure?
Yeah, we have another 10 minutes. So.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Jimmy a couple of questions because we've got a couple of loose minutes here. And,
Oh, nothing pressurized. No pressure.
Jimmy's been taking classes here. We used to teach classes in here with 10 people, Jimmy, imagine that?
8 to 10, that was fun.
8 to 10 people, and I noticed that we love everybody here. We love the guys and we love the ladies, but most of them were ladies, and they would come with their little tools and be, very contained in this spot, and I could get 20 of these ladies in here. But when Jimmy came in, he was like a grizzly bear. He came in with all his tools. He had like 5 cases of tools. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but and he would put one suitcase over here. A suitcase he brought in. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I used to bring in donuts once in a while.
And Jimmy was one of our favorites because he would bring in donuts, and Jimmy was a great supporter of us in the early days. He took many classes, Jimmy. We were very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So many different people came through the doors, and so many people with different projects, different levels all the time.
Yeah.
And you kind of learned. You learned for yourself for the project you were doing, but also the fact of watching somebody else how they did something you had done prior, or something you were going to do later on.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun. I
So-
loved it.
So you learned from other people while you were learning from your own piece.
Yeah,
So
I got to see their techniques of how they were doing things, how things worked out.
would that be a great class, online class, wouldn't it? I mean, if we could do that, that would be a very different. It's hard enough. Our technical people here have a hard enough time filming just one person or 2 people, me and the student.
Well, you'd have to put your son to work, I think.
But
yeah.
how would he?
It would have to just be, like an overview. Like we couldn't show every little thing.
An
You know what I mean?
overview.
Like
Yeah,
the
you'd have
camera
to-
would have to be set up in the front of the shop, and just people would have to be enjoy just seeing everyone working from a distance.
Well, I think what you'd have to do too is have cameras over 1 or 2 projects and pick the project you'd want that they might be doing for the week.
Well,
Say, oh, we're gonna, like my chair with the sewing and the stuffing. Oh, we're gonna do that this week. We're gonna show the backing, how they take apart a
Yeah.
chair. We're gonna do the springs, blah, 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 back and forth.
Well, we might have an opportunity to do this. We have a class coming up. We think it's going to run. We have 4 people in that class now, Patrick.
Oh, nice.
So it may run. It's in January.
You had another one too, but she couldn't do Fridays.
All right. It's in January, and we've been given permission that we can film in that class, but it'll be with more people. Think about that class. You know what those classes always remind me from a teacher's standpoint?
What's that?
It's like, those chess guys that play all those people at once?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
that's what it feels like.
So this is like is this class that's coming up in January the same class that I used to be taking?
Yeah,
No way.
yeah.
What day is this?
It's Friday mornings, Jimmy.
Oh, you gotta get another time.
And it's the only time they have with the studio.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's the studio?
It's in Lexington, Massachusetts,
Oh,
We got a couple of questions from Janine.
Okay, we got
Um,
questions from Janine.
So she wants to know about where to get tax. She has trouble getting tax if she's in Australia for the good quality ones. So is there a cheaper? Well, she pretty much wants to know if there's a cheaper alternative, like on Amazon. Or,
Well, Janine,
I don't know if Albany would ship.
Well, Janine, have you taken advantage, I know that you're more advanced, but part of that kit the upholstery kit that we're selling, the video and the booklet, which I wrote. It's a great illustrated booklet that I think is worth the value to,
Which is on sale now.
which is on sale. But in it, you're given instructions on how to get the supplies for that ornament, and it's a direct referral. I'm not, there's no upcharging. I'm just giving you the information, and you're contacting the best supplier that I know of, old world supplier, that's very important. Because you could go to the hardware store and get those tags, and they're not the same. They're too thick on the end, Jimmy. I don't know if you've had that experience, Jimmy.
I know they are. I really, when I did my project for my sister's chair, it was, I knew the base had to be kind of strong enough, but also not too thick.
Right.
I knew the type of tack I was looking for.
So they're specific to upholstery. The cut, it's just a cut. How they cut the metal, that's
Yeah.
different, and it makes a big difference. And the important part too is if you do, I don't encourage people to put tacks in their mouth, but upholstery tacks come sterilized.
Oh,
Did you know that?
no.
They
You can eat them.
You can eat them, Patrick, but you can put them in your mouth temporarily and not be worried about getting rust in there or anything like that. So I guess the other thing is Jeanine had another question, didn't she, Patrick?
Well, this was back when you were talking about the stitching. She wants to know, would hand stitching be better?
Hand stitch.
I forget what we were talking about. And she also wants to know, would Albany foam ship to Australia?
Oh, I think they should. They'll probably charge the
well-
foreign rate.
They have UPS.
Yes.
UPS goes overseas, right?
Yes.
I think you know who to speak to. I won't mention his name, but when you get that kit, you get extra supplies. By the way, I guess that's what I wanted to mention. You get the tacks, and you get extra tacks. That usually the kit is enough to get you set up in a little business. You get enough supplies to do other projects. Because the main reason for that is when you buy it, the smallest amount of tacks you can buy, professional tacks, are a pound. So they're about this. Well, I have a box here to show you. That's what you get. So in the kit you get those a pound of 6-ounce tacks, and you probably won't even use half the box, I'd say, to do the kit. And then you get the 14-ounce tacks, which is due for those are the bigger tacks for the springs. But I think it's good value. And then you get twines and things like that you get more that you need. And like I said, the reason is we couldn't break these boxes down for you. Was there another question, Patrick?
Nope.
Unless Jimmy or you have a question, I think that, or do we have anything else, any business that we need to talk about?
Just more of a tease for there'll be a lot more videos for sale on the site, and we're starting with a lot different stuff on there too.
Coming up in the new year, we're going to have many more videos up for people who do more sewing and they can't tack or hammer in an apartment building, for instance. And a slip covering definitely is the easier way to go. And I think by far it's less expensive. I would say it's less expensive than upholstery. So that's coming up, and we may, if that's successful, we may add other tradespeople, craftspeople, onto the Broadway Upholstery School. So keep in tune, and we appreciate all the early people who have supported us thus far, and we're really working hard to provide the best product we can. I am not perfect. I'd be the first one to admit that. So if you see something that you don't like or that I could improve on, please don't hesitate to let me know. So I guess that will conclude this question and answer. And like, if you've watched this afterwards and you missed it, you can always contact us at BroadwayUpholsterySchool.com, Patrick.
Yeah, or email us. Everything's up on the site.
Everything's up on the site, so check it out. But contact us and let us know. Let us know how we're doing. We appreciate it. So until next time, we'll see you later.